ChatGPT, you can integrate your Google Docs into that. And I've been getting notifications of Gemini wanting to integrate with everything. And so it's going to be a fight with AI if you're having multiple AIs looking at your things.
It's going to sort of become a seamless transition. Everyone's going to use AI, whether they know about it or not. And I think it's just a case of, at the moment, we have to consciously adopt it, but I don't think it's going to be like that for long. It's going to be so interwoven in everything that, just by checking your email, you're not going to have a choice whether you want it or not. It's going to be in there suggesting that I don't think you're responding to this person in a very nice way.
Obviously, big privacy concerns. Microsoft admits that the feature performs no content moderation, meaning it will gobble up everything it sees, including passwords in a password manager, or your account numbers and your banking websites. It's going to be grabbing all of that. It's going to be pulling out all the text out of it and saving it to this single index. So previously, our privacy concerns have always been around specific applications. And if we trust those applications or not, like do we trust Edge? Do we trust Chrome? Do we trust Word? But really now, all that data, all the privacy is just being pulled out of all those applications into the central sort of OS repository of everything.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Make an Impact. I'm your host, Makoto Kern. I've got my co-host, Joe Kraft and Brynley Evans on the call as well.
Hey there.
Thanks for joining. On today's episode, we've got some latest news on Copilot Plus PCs, AI integration into Windows. We also got emergent capabilities, and we're going to talk about the Anthropic developing techniques to better understand AI neural networks. So before we just jump in, wanted to give a brief just overview, what we do as Impact. We are a UX product software design and development agency. We go into companies, we help them actually launch from boardroom to code. We help companies pretty much reduce risk, get to priorities, and understand where the highest priorities are faster. And, Joe and Brynley has been involved with mainly in energy for the last several years and really helping out companies make their enterprise software much better and really more usable to their customers. And so lately, they've been really involved in AI and integration of AI into the software products. And so they're great experts to talk about these topics. So with that, I think we should go ahead and jump right into it.
Sounds good.
So Brynley, I don't know if you want to start, or Joe, you want to start off?
I think there's so much to talk about. I know, Joe, you had something about Copilot and PC, so I'll let you unpack that.
It's a kind of an interesting topic. So this might be, I'll kind of have to explain a bit of the background since you guys are Mac guys, right? So this doesn't affect you. But I think it's going to become, a bigger thing. I think all the other operating systems will slowly pick us up. But basically, Microsoft, you can tell just from the direction that they're going and a lot of their recent conferences that they're going all in on AI. They're trying to get AI into absolutely every part of their business, their product strategy. So they're very invested into it. And we've seen instances of AI being incorporated into Office, into PowerPoint and Word, in email. So the whole Office suite's getting AI integration. And it's generally, just assistant integration. And then obviously they, with their development side with GitHub and Copilot integration, they've got sort of assistance with code and writing our code in VS Code and different tools like that. And then what they've been doing is adding Copilot to Windows. So that's your general search. So similar to, if you go to Edge or use Edge or any sort of Copilot interface, it's their implementation of ChatGPT, right? So you can sort of ask questions, get responses. And that's always been, kind of a button that you click on in Windows to achieve that. And it's still very much just ChatGPT, just a button that allows you to get there easily. So that's the current landscape, and that's what it's been so far. But some interesting news came out this week you can see the direction that they're going, and they're going way more into it than that. They really want to integrate AI deeply into the operating system. Now, I'll sort of explain the features of what they're doing. There's one specific feature, and just be interested to get your guys' take on what you think this means and the direction that they're going with it. Do you think it's a good thing, or do you see problems with it? So I'll explain a bit about it. So what they're doing is they're building Currently, it's not available on all Windows machines. I think it's just their new laptops with a specific Snapdragon processor, but they're working with Intel and AMD to bring out variants that'll work on normal PCs too. But really, what this means is that they're calling it Copilot Plus PCs. And what they're doing is integrating AI, and the chipset itself is extremely good at AI itself. It has capabilities. It's got neural processing units right on the Snapdragon processor itself for helping with this sort of thing. And on the surface, it seems pretty good. They just adding more AI integration to a lot of the products, and they showed a few simple examples, like the classic Windows Paint. You can now sort of draw a fuzzy picture, and there's a side panel, and you can ask it to turn that fuzzy picture of a turtle into an actual really good image of a turtle, and it'll do that for you. Or
interesting.
Put a photo there and say redesign this photo and make it look like an 80s movie star or something, and you'll also add a filter on top of that. So kind of integration like that. But there's one thing that they're adding, which is really the main feature of this, and it's called recall. And what recall is well, try and explain it simply. What it's basically doing is taking screenshots consistently of all the work that you're doing on your computer, saving that to an index stored locally on your machine, and then using AI to analyze all the data through it. It's going to analyze all the screenshots, pull out all the information it can out of that, and then store that within an index too. So what they're claiming and what their use cases for this are is that you'll then start being able to, ask Copilot information about the work that you're actually doing. Like, what file was I working on last week? And I think I had a meeting scheduled that I, was writing out an email to, and I think I discarded that email. Can you bring that email back? And they'll bring it back for you. It's basically like a full history. I think it goes back 3 months of everything that you've done on your computer. So it's taking consistent screenshots of that. They even showed examples of you being able to sort of walk through that as a timeline. So you can sort of imagine looking at your screen and a timeline sort of bar at the top that you can drag back and forth over time. And you'll just see screenshots sort of showing where you were in that process of time. So it's really just a full-on recording device of everything that you're doing. And again, the advantages are you should be able to query on that. You should be able to ask questions, ask it about work that you're doing, or bring me up that image that I was editing last week of my new puppies or whatever. So, has interesting sort of use cases there for it, especially when it comes to work.
So you're getting... Yeah. So you're getting Total Recall, but not with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Exactly. That's why they're calling it recall. So it's an interesting bit of tech, right? So without sort of, I've got a few of my own kind of thoughts on that tech, but off the bat, what would you guys say? Would you say that would be something that you'd want to use? Would you want to see that in your Mac operating systems, or could you see a use case for it? Do you think it's worth kind of the whole implementation that they're going with it, or what are your thoughts off of that?
Yeah, I'm curious that if some of it isn't just more of a salesy type of thing. I mean, great, you're using neural networks. It's AI integration. That seems to be the hot topic. So whether you have AI in there or not, it's just a better processor. And using those terms make it sound more sellable. I'm curious how much of that comes into play. Like, is there any really difference between just improvement of the processor with better, architecture? So I'm wondering how that works. But as far as the recall, I mean, it's definitely interesting to keep all that. It's like a timeline. Yeah. Google follows you with maps or whatever, and it has a history. So the more history you have of what you've been doing, can better inform whether it's ads or something else. So I think there's definitely value to that, but obviously there's a big brother aspect of it as well. So I'm sure people are going to be either bothered by it if you have a bad, interesting history and screenshots to show, or if you don't.
Yeah. It is interesting too. I was looking at some of the specs of those machines, and things like the RAM is pretty high for some of the different models. And you do think, what have they planned in the future? If we go back to, I think it was our last podcast, we were talking about the kind of small language models and having locally running models. Could they be using something like that, or could they extend, the ability to do that? And then where I see this going as well is, you obviously, if you have some form of training or referencing through everything you're doing on your operating system, and you have a personalized model in the future that understands that, and it can be tied back into your actual operating system, it's going to be so much easier to be able to ask for help with something, or almost automate certain things that you've been doing already. Could recognize, well, I realize that once a week you usually send the summary email. So I've noticed the things you've done. Would you, the last week, would you like me to summarize and add that to it? Yes, please. So there's 30 minutes of your day that's been saved just from going through that. So there are lots of exciting possibilities. I kind of agree with you. It's probably Makoto, is the marketing sort of hype that will sell these initially. And those little things like the paid demo that someone's like, this is amazing. But what they can do in the future if they get machines that are capable of actually running their own models, or even interfacing with models with kind of low latency.
Yeah. At the moment, I'm trying to think of my own use cases for it. Would I even find value in that? Do I ever get to a point in my workday where I'm like, oh, I need to go and find that thing I was working on, or have a question on some work I was doing last week, and that that comes up now and then. But I do wonder if it's like a strong enough value add to make me want to go out and buy one of those PCs, for instance. Sure, they may just inherently add it to Windows, on normal desktops at some point. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I guess this is the first phase of this, and the use cases are pretty simple. But really, what they're building out is a full indexed database of everything that you do. And there's got to be a lot of new functionality that they could build out that could add on to that. Or maybe they could see you doing some task and say to you, oh, there's a better way of doing this task. You don't have to, in Adobe, do this whole process of ticking on these 10 different menus to get your filters looking this way. There's a new feature that allows you to do it in one click or something, so they can analyze your workflows and improve those too, potentially, or send you reminders for things automatically that you may have forgotten to do. Or it's basically just analyzing everything that you're doing. And because our lives are now almost everything that we do is through our devices, it really is capturing all our entire lives almost. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that.
What I was thinking is, I just saw ChatGPT. You can integrate your Google Docs into that. And I've been getting notifications of Gemini wanting to integrate with everything. And so it's going to be a fight with AI if you're having multiple AIs looking at your things. So I'm curious how that's going to be. I know, like, hey, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be here. I'm going to kick you out of here. Google AI or ChatGPT. So that's kind of interesting. And going a little on the dark side of what can happen is it's almost you're going to see such a massive separation between people who are integrated with tech and people who aren't. They're going to have such a vast, it's almost like, they say, oh, when the rich get richer and the middle class disappear, you're just going to have big disparity between the rich and the poor. If certain things happen, you're almost going to see this happen as well with the tech. If you're just not involved with that, you're going to start getting way behind or just way out of, which could be good in some cases. Maybe you don't want anything to do with it. You want to go outside. You want to do something that's healthy. You don't want to just sit there and just AI coming at you at all different ways. But if you're not really utilizing it, I mean, what are you doing to your day to day? You go to your job, come back, you watch TV,
I don't know.
You eat, and that's
I'd
it.
I'd like to look at the other side of that. If you have people you're either going to get people who are using technology and not using it correctly, and they're not. So, you know of a lot of, I'm sure we all know of people who they'll use a computer, but they haven't used any of the NLPs yet. So,
Internet.
So you can imagine if we're starting to move off into an age of AI centralized in your actual operating system, which will happen, and which these new PCs, are sort of Copilot PCs, are going to offer, then it's going to sort of become a seamless transition. Everyone's going to use AI, whether they know about it or not. And I think it's just a case of, at the moment, we have to consciously adopt it, but I don't think it's going to be like that for long. It's going to be so interwoven in everything that, just by checking your email, you're not going to have a choice whether you want it or not. It's going to be in there suggesting that, I don't think you're responding to this person in a very nice way. Maybe you should change it. Like, how is it telling me this?
Yeah. Corporate policy has detected that your language is inappropriate for this email.
Manipulation
like,
AI.
Don't worry, we've changed it. We intercepted your email and we've corrected it to be much more appropriate.
We've reworded it for you. Don't worry. It's really
exactly. That's funny.
So I'll add on a few points that I was just reading through the comments on the news articles around this. Just, there's obviously big privacy concerns. So in the statement, it goes on to say, Microsoft admits that the feature performs no content moderation, meaning it will gobble up everything it sees, including passwords in a password manager or your account numbers and your banking websites. And just to sort of follow on from that, like in any sort of Discord conversations that you're having or Teams chat conversations, it's going to be grabbing all of that. It's going to be pulling out all the text out of it and saving it to this single index. So previously, our privacy concerns have always been around specific applications. And if we trust those applications or not, like, do we trust Edge? Do we trust Chrome? Do we trust Word? Do we trust, any kind of software that you're running on your machine, and you make those individual choices? But really now, all that data, all the privacy is just being, pulled out of all those applications into the central sort of OS repository of everything. And so there's a lot of privacy concerns around it, obviously, because what does that mean? It's now got everything about you, your passwords, where you've been, what websites you visited, who you spoke to, or your voice conversations could start getting recorded. And while this is currently only being stored locally on your machine, that's still a huge thing for anyone to try and get access to or be able to pull that out of your machine. They basically have a full, history of absolutely everything around you. So a lot of privacy concerns, obviously how Microsoft manages that. That's around security too, I guess. So let's say they do fix all of that, or figure out ways around that. I think they do already have ways you can turn off certain apps where it won't see it. But again, those are all like buried in settings that people are going to have to find or know those settings exist and manually go, no, don't look at my Discord, don't look at my Teams. These are work conversations that I want you to have access to. Where most people won't do that, they won't be aware of that. So yeah, interesting concerns around that.
Somebody said that Elon Musk wants to make X the application for all. I guess WeChat in China, it's kind of getting to that super app type of thing where it's doing everything, banking, mortgage, buying a pizza, whatever. You're doing everything through one super app. And so if you have that capability through one app, it's going to be able to just manage everything because it has access to everything.